Though it's a motorcycle show, we talk about motorcycle and motorcycle related products. It's a 2005 and I still rip that thing. And the other dude didn't have anything to say, but it's nothing near what the internet would have you believe. The racing wasn't nearly as fun as just riding was for me. Racing was work. My name is Jimmy Lewis. I'm a washed up ex-motorcycle racer telling you that you should ride till you get old, twist the throttle farther when you need more power, and maybe get a Countershox on your bike because it'll give you more traction on the front wheel if that's what you're looking for. On this exciting episode, make that amazing episode of Tech Talk Taco Tuesday, Nate Looney comes in and talks about the Countershox, which is a very interesting device. Jimmy answers a lot of questions, and you will get way more than you paid for.
Live from Pahrump, Nevada, the Valley of the Dirt People, it's Tech Talk Taco Tuesday with your host, Jimmy Lewis.
I go like this. Hey everybody, welcome to Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. Hopefully the sound is coming through because this is harder than it looks sometimes. Cheers, it's a Tuesday night. We're doing it on Tuesday night tonight. I'm not sure why, because we call the show Tech Talk Taco Tuesday, even though it's a motorcycle show. We talk about motorcycle and motorcycle-related products. My name is Jimmy Lewis. I'm your host. I answer most of the questions, like 9 out of 10 questions that you ask me in our chat, and I give you honest, real-world answers from somebody who has a lot of experience. That's it. And so tonight we have joining us the maker of the Countershox, Nathan Looney. And his email is Looney Nathan. So, but I think his name is actually Nathan Looney. So we'll bring him on in a few minutes here when I get everything rolling. Of course, I was busy. I'm running around with my head chopped off, getting ready for this event I do called the Rebel Rally. So when I'm done with the show, I get to go and drive for 4 hours so I can get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and ride about 200 miles. Dirt bikes. I'm going to ride my dirt bike to verify and check some course stuff. So pretty cool. Well, hold on a second. Mr. Endo wants to go live with me on the Instagrams. I'm going to see if this works because I just accepted that. And keep going. You can, if you could come onto this show right now. Okay, good. There's a light. Okay, I'm accepting that. Let's see what's going to happen. Where are you? This is the same thing that happened to that kid last week, which I think was actually a really hot chick. Let's see. If I push the live button, that doesn't do anything. I need someone in here that knows how to produce these kind of things and figure out. Let's see. Yeah, so I don't know how it works. I don't see him on the screen. George, you're fired. You don't know how to make the internets work very well. What you should do if you're watching on the grams is go on to Facebook, on Dirt Bike Test Facebook, or our YouTube channel. And if you are watching this in the future, like if you're from Australia and you're in the future, start doing the mean comments right away, because I went through the comments and like good 30% of the comments on some of our videos all came from the other side of the world. So like when we flush the toilet, it goes there, but evidently they're trying to give some back. So we got some pretty good comments on some of our videos. So that's what we're doing here on the show. Thanks for joining in. Of course, this would not be possible. This is episode number 205 of Tech Talk Tacos Tuesday, brought to you by Yamaha, Taco Moto, Scott Sports, Climb, DDC, Trail Tech, Fasst Company, Bulletproof Designs, and of course, Double Take Mirrors. If you want to help support us, you can also click through our Amazon and Rocky Mountain MC links, which are available on our website. Just go to the Support Us button, click there. If you're going to make a purchase over at Rocky Mountain MC ATV, by the way, a couple people are asking me about my pipe on my KTM 300. They're like, what kind of pipe is that? And it's one of their Lex pipes. So if you're looking for a pipe and you're having supply issues with some of the other guys, which I for sure was, and I really wanted a stock replacement just because I really like the way the stock pipe works on that bike, that fit the bill. So something to check out over there. Of course, if you're looking at some of our modified 450 off-road shootout and you see some of the stuff that Trevor did to those bikes, you can get a lot of that stuff over at Rocky Mountain MC ATV. And if you click through our link, then it doesn't cost you anything. We get a little share. It helps me keep doing this. And that way we can, I'm going live with Mr. Endo here. I'm trying, and I don't know why he doesn't come on the screen. Maybe there's another button I have to push. Do I have to give a happy face? I don't know. That doesn't work. No, that's a mood. I can do something else. You can see the front of my computer screen now. That doesn't work. Wait, something else popped up when I just did that. 3. Let's see. In this room. Oh, invited. Yeah, so there's a room someplace. Now what do I got to do? I don't know. Invited. You're invited. I don't know what else you can do. Maybe there's someplace where there's a virtual room going on, and I have no idea what it is. So, anyways, Jesse G just saw the Rebel Rally stickered Ford Bronco on the 985 north to Vegas today. There will be 65 of those, not Broncos necessarily, but 65 competitors in this thing, and it's an all-women's off-road navigation rally. They do everything by map and compass, and my job is I'm the course director. I help figure out where they're going to go and then run checkpoint crews and things like that. So that's my thing. Facebook user says, also been a while since I've been watching, so forgive me if you've talked about it. What's your thoughts on the new Enduro Pro models from Husky or KTM Hard Enduro Editions bikes versus regular models? I don't know because I haven't ridden them yet. Generally, when KTM does like a pro or factory edition model, it's bling stuff. It's stuff that you look at more than makes a difference. Sometimes the triple clamp is altered. They usually don't do on the motocross bikes. They're released a half a year before the regular model, so they'll do like it'd be a 2024. I don't even know how they do it now. It's so they would release the 2024 and a half, and then they would make the 2025. But on the off-road bikes, they've just been releasing ones that have different color combos. I think on some of the Huskies, some of the components were a little bit different, like the brakes and everything, but I don't pay attention to every single thing. You're getting basically the same bike. So like when Beta does an RR edition, it's different suspension components. And some of the other manufacturers have taken this to a different level, like Honda with their CR450 Works Edition. They actually had different mapping inside of it, slightly different cam, I think. And I knew it had an exhaust system. I don't remember. Every bike is different. It's hard for me to remember all the specifics. In Kawasaki, I haven't ridden their SR, but evidently that's changed a little bit. So, yeah. I don't know the specifics, but it really kind of depends on what you're doing and what you want to do with it, if it's going to be better or not. Generally, they look a little bit different, and that's what's going on. I don't know how to do your request to be live, so if you want to be live, you can call into the show later, because I've got a guy that I've got to text right now. And then as soon as I text that guy, we can, let's see here. I got to text that guy. How do I text this guy? Which text is it? Oh boy. Here we go. Here, text. Okay. Call in any time. There we go. So now I have to plug him in when he gets called in. I'll plug this in here. But that means I have to hang up on you Instagrammers. Since Instagram is such an instant thing, I will see you in the near future, and we will, come on to the live show, ask questions over there. If you ask questions, they were scrolling up on a screen that I couldn't see, and sorry. And now, bye. Okay, share. Here we go. Now, I have to plug this in here to make this work here, and I go like that, and welcome to Tech Talk Taco Tuesday.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. Let me make sure the volume is okay. I think it is. So, am I right? The name is Nathan Looney.
Yeah, it's not Looney Nathan, although I've been called Looney for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The funny thing was, is that your email is Looney Nathan, though.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Okay, I got it. I got some of it right.
Yep.
Anyways, did we meet at the AIM show last year?
Yeah. You were walking around with Mike and checking out the stuff at AIM, and yeah, we talked quite a while, and you kept side eyeing the Countershox, and was glad to see you wanted to try it. So.
Well, it's interesting. I have some experience with this in a couple of different forms, mostly on a supermoto bike, but on the rear swing arm is where it was attached.
Right.
And so basically, the Countershox is how would you describe it? Like, what's your technical term for what you call it?
Well, there's some people, and it's not exactly technically correct. It's been called a inertial damper is one other name for it. But other people have called it a tuned mass damper. Each of those things have a very specific definition. This actually doesn't fit exactly either of those definitions. Part of the difference is like a tuned mass damper doesn't really have a bottoming component, and this, for people that don't know, it weighs 1.5 pounds, and there's weight in there moving around, and when it does bottom, it makes it causes a particular reaction, but most of the time it's just in there resonating against what vibrations and trying to stay in place, basically.
So calling it an inertial damper is correct.
It's really close. If you were to look up the exact definition, it's not quite, and it's not quite a tuned mass damper. It's something kind of in between.
Right. So I've it's funny because I talk about when I teach riding techniques and stuff like that. When I tell people that when you stand up, in theory, you can technically lower the center of gravity by standing up, but it's not really the truth. So all of a sudden there's things like polar moment of inertia and all this other physics stuff that I don't understand in, like, if you're going to put it on numbers and stuff, I can kind of draw it out on a chart. I could draw a diagram and give you an idea, and somebody will say, oh, that's this, and it's a cross between polar moment of inertia divided by I'm like, whoa. So all things aside, it's essentially it's a fixed cavity with a weight that oscillates up and down inside of that cavity.
Yes, exactly.
Is it?
And there was a lot of sort of engineering because you couldn't. If it doesn't move enough, it's basically becomes dead weight. If it moves too much, it's in there slopping around and making noise. It also can create an out of phase situation. If you were to build one that was way too soft, it could actually do the opposite at times.
Could amplify
of what you want it to do.
Yeah.
So, right. So, there was a lot of data that we collected and went back and forth trying to home in on exactly what frequencies we were trying to attenuate.
So inside of it, I mean, I don't know, you're it's a patent pending item.
Yes.
And so to describe it a little bit more, it's clamped to the fork, and it's a tube. It's essentially a tube, a solid tube that has a weight inside of it that moves around, and it's clamped to the fork. So the clamping mechanism is fixing it to the fork, and then this damper kind of rides free inside of there. And the idea is when you hit a bump and the fork accelerates in one direction, that weight goes the opposite direction, and then as it goes and it holds itself up there, and then when the fork starts returning, the weight shifts to the other direction and dampens the kind of the opposite direction.
Right, it does. But this stuff is happening at a really high rate as you're doing it. Another thing that's a little different about the way that I think most people think about this is most impacts obviously are coming, you're going down towards the ground, or the ground's coming up at you. This also works the other way. Like, say you were to wheelie over a log, and as you do that, when you hit the log with your rear wheel, it's going to try to snap the front end down really hard, and it'll actually catch a small portion of that on the upstroke and do the same kind of damping that it does on the downstroke.
Interesting. So
if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I mean, it does. And I remember when it was being done on the rear, and what it was really counteracting there was the rear wheel chatter that you were getting. And it was kind of previous to them really understanding the effect of a slipper clutch, because a slipper clutch could take some of that away. Because basically your wheel's trying to skid, and then it skids enough to, and the back end's getting light, so it actually skids enough to take the wheel off the ground, and then it would start hopping, and then the suspension would kind of get into that oscillation where now the spring of the tire and the weight of the swing arm and the wheel, unsprung weight. So it was kind of counteracting the unsprung weight doing things you didn't necessarily want it to do. And so this is, I mean, there's some of that with the unsprung weight of the front wheel and the lower forks that are, going, it's probably going out of phase in the opposite direction of those, correct?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And so, all technical aside, it's funny because I watched another video this week that was somebody explaining something else that I wasn't super familiar with, and they started getting into the weeds on it, and I was like, oh, I want to understand that, but I don't know enough about it to do it. But I'll tell you what. So I saw it. I had some experience. I remember talking to you. I asked you a few questions. I remember you guys were really heavy on. You were promoted it to like the Pee-wee, mini bike riders and stuff, or at least it was on that bike, and a lot of your literature, I think, talked about that, and then kind of like learning.
Right. We've still we're still kind of working towards that. We actually have quite a few of them made, and we'll be releasing those in the next couple weeks. But yeah, we've been trying to get them prepared for the 65s and 85s. They're a little bit lighter, so we had changed some of the stuff internally, and obviously the fork clamps are smaller, and we're trying to make sure that we make a clamp that will fit on as many bikes as possible. But the best part about the kids stuff is kids are, and adults are horrible at it, but kids are even worse at giving you feedback. They don't know what you're doing. Is that better or is that worse? But after riding with this device attached to your bike, and putting it from bike to bike, and not really seeing a drawback in almost any situation, you know that you can put it on your kid's bike and it's going to improve it.
Right.
So, I had the.
So I'll tell you just so I saw you popped into the chat once or something and asked if we were interested in trying. I said yes, absolutely. Sent one out. Finally got it on the bike a couple weeks ago. Put it on. Did some really quick back to back. Just clamped it onto a Yamaha WR250. Clamped it on. Rode a little bit. Took it off. Put it back on. Took it off. And I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this feeling. And right away, and I know there's in our chat is Troy Hicks, who is definitely a believer in this because he loves his and talks about it. And so straight away you could feel it doing something. And the interesting thing is it just, to me, it just feels like more traction. And I was trying to figure out how I would explain this. And so there's certain things you do to your bike to make it more comfortable, and I do a lot of them. Number one, I put flex handlebars on pretty much every bike that I own, that I ride. And I have bad wrists, and the shock that comes through, more so the chassis than just the forks. But if you have a kind of a stiffer fork setting, or a fork that doesn't not really plush, it goes up into your hands and affects that. And if you start tuning the fork to the point where it's mushy, you know, where you get rid of some of that, then you lose handling character. And so,
Right.
so I put the flex bars on my bikes. The other thing I do is I put steering dampers on my bikes. I run the Scott steering damper most of the time. It's just the one that I find is the best all around. And that really doesn't have anything to do with kind of up and down. That's more of the side to side. And because it, especially when the high speed kicks in, and it doesn't deflect, it absorbs better, if you know what I mean. Instead, it's so the fork actually, you can run a stiffer fork, and the damper does some things. And so another thing I do a lot of times is, you know, mostly for I want to call it for safety, just for not getting flats, is I run a moose. And so the moose has a certain characteristic that dampens a certain way and doesn't deflect like an air tube and a pneumatic tube would, and different things. So there's all these different things you can do. And the one way I would describe this is, and if somebody wants to know what it feels like, if you've ever gone from a tube to a moose and the bike gets that sort of dead feeling in the front end, it does, I want to say some of that, I want to call it like maybe 70% of that kind of feeling, but which is a good feeling, right until the point where the moose doesn't, it feels kind of mushy and you don't get that real responsive steering, which you don't get with the inertial damper. So if there's a way to describe what it does, and somehow it's just, and I saw the chart that you sent me, and I'll ask a question about that in a little bit. I saw that it's basically on the return, it returns quicker. Like if the suspension compresses and then rebounds down, it goes to what we would call like a static position, like a neutral position, without oscillating a little bit, and it does that quicker. And that's kind of what you guys are finding.
Yeah, that'd be I'd say accurate. Another thing to kind of think about when you think about the weight coming down at the exact moment that your fork is coming up, it would be kind of like if you were riding along and you saw a small log and you didn't want the bike to deflect off of it, so you kind of push the forks down as you hit it so that it doesn't pop up at you. Mm-hmm. Not like a big bump, but it's doing that for you. So it's doing that on, every bump that you see and don't see. And it causes the bike to, I'll just kind of explain one other, test that we had ran. And this actually was just surprising that it showed up in the data. It was, we set up like a 10-minute hare scramble course and went out and rode it. And in that 10 minutes, the bike topped out 63 times, which, who knows how many times. I've never counted something like that before. But then we put the Countershox on and went out and rode the same loop. And we only topped out 20 times in the exact same loop, same rider. And then we went back and forth, and that was the case almost all the time. And so what that actually told us is all those small bumps causes your front end to actually rise up above natural sag. And so what this is doing is it's an impulse going down for each of those small bumps. And that impulse keeps you right at natural sag instead of above it, so that you are what, you always hear the term in the stroke in suspension. Well, yeah. You're already in the stroke, so you don't end up feeling like you have this huge dive when you hit the brakes. When you hit a bump, it doesn't feel like there's a bunch of movement, because it's keeping it just right at your normal natural sag.
Yeah, that sounds like what I'm feeling, kind of when you're riding. And you talk about like riding up that log, and you compress down. The reason you compress down is so that it springs up, and then you get full extension of the stroke, as opposed to riding into it kind of packed. And they talk about suspension
Right.
packing. If you just rode straight into it, you're going to pack. But if you lighten the front end, then hopefully if it's a little log, you don't have to lift it up. But if it's enough, you want it to be up so that it doesn't just smack into something. And that's the kind of the riding side of it. So what I'm going to do is we have this this device called the Moto Click, which is you can mount it onto the bike, and it data logs the suspension. And so I'm actually when I get back, I'm going to hook it up and actually start looking at, probably similar to the charts that you have, so I can actually see what it's doing. But there's no doubt, and where this really seems to work for me is when you're on rocky, like kind of, lots of sharp square hits, like rocky kind of stuff that would deflect the front end, or, kind of cause it to transmit, the bumps through the thing. If you're in sand, you're not really, I don't think you really feel it as much. Although when I rode,
no, there's not. Sand and mud is not really its forte. Yeah.
When I like I said, when I rode it in the softer terrain, I didn't notice it as much. But if you are in soft, and then so we have the sand track that goes from sand to hard and then back to sand. It's kind of like where dunes have blown in, and we get these curbs right out of the sand. And I tell you, there's a place where it's sand, couple curbs and sand. Like all of a sudden, you really notice it. I mean, it's like in the sand, you maybe don't, but on the hard pack. And then when you're going, like probably the best thing that I think it does, and this is a big problem out here, is we have the UTV bumps, which are they're like mini hoops, because the tires are smaller in the way that they build them. It's just chatter, and it's horrible on a bike. And so the difference between a tube and a moose on that stuff is, and it's really good at destroying mooses, by the way. It'll wear out a moose quicker than you know. But the difference when I was riding across the UTV bumps was pretty huge. So definitely noticeable, because I mean, they were still horrible, but now I'm riding it, and I'm going, I want one of these things on my rear wheel. Because the front wheel, generally in this, the front wheel's all over the place. It's trying to move. It's not tracking properly, and the rear wheel feels pretty good. And then you're kind of on the gas to lighten up the front, and kind of plow through these things. And with this thing, with the Countershox, you could just drive through it normally, and now you notice how loose the rear is, which was never the case before. So yeah, and having
I'm just out here creating problems for you.
And having run one on a swing arm before, I'm kind of going, God, I wonder if that would. Now, do I need one on both ends? Who knows? So.
Well, that's definitely an idea that we will be putting some effort into pretty soon. But we haven't really attacked that just yet. There's a lot to look at with the front end. So we're also working on a device. We've actually sent out some prototypes for downhill mountain bikes. And an enduro mountain bikes. So, and getting some pretty good feedback from some pretty big players in the game there.
Yeah.
So,
and I think these things have been run I know, like I said, I've tested different devices with this before. I think that these things have been around and just out of sight before. Well,
I other than the swing arm thing that I've seen, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that looks like it, that a lot of people think that they're getting a sub tank or something to that effect.
Right.
But, obviously it's not piped into the fork at all. It's doing a different job.
The ones that I saw, you couldn't see. They were not visible. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's not, like I said, even on my truck, my truck has a big bell-shaped weight that's on the frame, and it's something similar. It's different, but it's something similar to this.
Well, they have one that goes in a shotgun hand stock to keep it from kicking so hard.
Yeah,
and it's a similar concept.
So can I ask what's your background and how did you kind of come to this?
Well, my background isn't in any kind of engineering, but I've been carpenter for a long time. But I've also been racing. Oh, I've raced double A in Kansas, which is probably like saying I race A anywhere else. But since 2000, and I've always tinkered with stuff and tried things that nobody else had tried before. I'm sure everybody's tried putting, by now anyhow, and I was doing this a long time ago, putting tennis balls in your tires to see if that had worked before there was ever any of that kind of stuff. I was always up for trying
you and Scott Summers' dad.
Right, yeah. So yeah, that's good company, I guess.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so but yeah, I actually kind of had this idea. I actually had carpal tunnel surgery, and I couldn't feel my three fingers, and that was it made it difficult to ride and try to push, and can't feel your hand, can't feel the brake, can't feel the gas, and I just kind of was thinking what could I do, and I actually built a prototype in my garage, and it was ugly and huge, and and it didn't work as good as what we have, but I could feel the concept almost immediately. I was like, okay, so I got to work on shrinking this, making it look good, and seeing if I can figure out, I want to technically know exactly what's going on here. So, I kind of reverse engineered myself really to see, all the different things, and kind of taught myself a lot about, along with a good friend of mine, about what was going on with frequencies and all that.
So can you talk about what's inside of it?
What's that inside of it?
Yeah, what's inside of it? Is it oil dampened?
Well, what I would call it is actually more like a piston than what you would think. It's not just weight slinging around in there. There's some really close tolerances. So as it's going up and down, it's actually catching a certain amount of air at the bottom and the top as it hits, keeping it from hitting down really hard.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if it's going through, if it's too tight and not letting enough air by, you're going to end up, it's going to be almost like dead weight.
Yeah.
So, there was a lot of playing with getting that gap just right, and the strength of, the pieces in there.
Are there springs in it?
Yes, there are.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's sprung to a certain extent, and then as extent,
right.
and uses the air pressure to stop like bottoming resistance, essentially.
Right. Yep. And we tried 100 different off-the-shelf springs, and ended up luckily in Kansas City, where I'm from. There's a spring manufacturer here, and I was able to give them exactly the specs that I needed, and came up with something that just works perfectly. So that's pretty helpful. But yeah, you wouldn't be able to just buy these off the shelf unless you came to Kansas City and got a hold of my spring guy. Yeah. No, I can imagine some of this. I mean, just in all the suspension testing and development I've been involved in, I've seen some crazy stuff. And so, now you look at like what, off-road trucks are doing with bypasses and stuff like this. And a lot of that stuff's been tried on motorcycles, because like some of the best shock technicians come from the dirt bike world, especially whether it's off-road or motocross, supercross stuff, because we're asking so much of such a small, compact, high performance unit. And then when you can all of a sudden get things with bigger size and volume and all this crazy stuff. So I can only imagine the different things that you've done inside. And just even talking, I start thinking about some of the things that I've tried before. I'm like, God, I wonder if that, you start thinking about, okay, what if it was adjustable? And, what if it had longer travel and all these different, these different parameters that could be involved in that. But that was something else that I initially built into the design of it. But I found that basically once once you have the right frequency, you can make it worse, but you really can't make it better. If because all you do when you, like, let's say you were to preload that spring that's in there, too much. Well, as soon as you do that, you're limiting its range, and it's doing less of the job that it did. And having zero preload on it gives it, makes it, it's like, well, there's really not a reason to have that adjustment that I can tell.
And I know you don't want it bottoming out or topping out.
No,
like
no,
in a hard way, in a clank.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like I said, initially I was using as many, whatever springs I could find off the shelf. And, I worked with 2 different spring companies, then they're spring engineers, and they told me, yeah, these springs are exactly this weight and they will never break on you. They won't do anything. They'll do this, they'll do that. And then, and this was literally the first probably 50 that I put out, which we're at closer to 800 now. So, but that first 50, and, 3 months later, I'm having friends call me, because that's pretty much all it had at that point. It was like, hey, this thing makes a clacking sound. I'm like, bring it over. Let me look at it. It's like, oh, yeah, that's broken. But the springs we have at this point, they'll last forever. They'll last as long as the bike does.
Awesome. Well, straight away, like I told you when I talked to you, I'm pretty impressed with it. It's definitely doing something. I know everybody's just afraid of putting weight up onto their handlebars. And the other thing I was going to say is it has a little bit of a steering damper effect. In the steering plane, side to side, it does do something there. Don't know whether it's 100% good until it's really bad. Like if it really gets deflected, because I rode it on a bike with a damper and without a damper, and I noticed it. But like I said, I want to definitely do some further testing, kind of see if I can see what I'm feeling and just have a better ability to describe it. And I want to do some real controlled testing where I don't want to ride. Sure. I don't want to ride it with a moose. I don't want to ride it with a steering damper. I don't want to ride it with flex handlebars. I just want to bolt it onto a kind of a stock motorcycle with an air tube, and then do some stuff like overpressurize a little bit and see, kind of see how it responds and where it responds. And so, so a couple things. If somebody's listening, we're talking about this. It's a device called the Countershox. Where can people find out about it?
Well, if you spell Countershox with an X, and you can just Google it, and you'll probably come to my website, because I made up the word, and there's pretty much nothing else like it. So, you can go to countershox.com, and then I also have a Instagram, which is counter_shocks, because somebody has that is not using it, but the actual Countershox. But anyway, and then I have a Facebook page also. So we're hoping in the very near future to have a couple distributors, but I'm not really gonna sort of talk about it just yet, because
I
feel like we're on a bit of a holding pattern. Yeah. So, but I am open to and looking for distributors. I'm hoping to be in Rocky Mountain, Parts Unlimited, those kind of places pretty soon. So
cool. Well, like I said, I liked it so much. I took it. So I'm riding a KTM 500 when I'm doing my coursework for the Rebel Rally. I took it off of, I had my KTM 300. I took it off my KTM 300 and moved it onto my 500 because I can get more time on it. It's a lot of riding on kind of dual sporty, adventure roads, stuff like that, some rocky terrain. And I'm like, well, it worked good enough for me to put it on another bike. It's working, and plus, like I said, more testing. So, hey, thanks for coming on, and I'll talk to you in the near future, and maybe we'll share some information with you when we kind of start wrapping this thing up.
I'd love to hear your feedback, and I appreciate you letting me come on, and we'll hopefully you'll have a good race this weekend.
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm not racing. I don't race anymore. No, I'm a
No. You're putting on the race. Hopefully you don't screw it up for those girls.
No, it's a week and a half long event. So. No,
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the longest off-road event in the United States. So Rebel Rally. So cool. Well, thanks for calling in, and we will see you out on the trail, Nate.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
See you. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay. That was Nate Looney from Countershox. I'm bad with names. I can't remember names, and I just talked to somebody. So we should have a review up on that at some point in the future, but not right away, because unlike most influencers, because we're not, we don't just grab something and go, yay, it's great, and then write something about it without fully testing something, especially when something's newer technology. And as much as the device works, it's like, how is the clamping, which I've clamped on 2-3 different bikes now, and it's holding. It's not doing anything funny there. It's easy to take on and off for back-to-back testing, although once you get it on, I don't think you'd want to turn it off. But anyways, go to just Google search Countershox, Countershox. I threw it up there in the chat if you're curious, and we have a lot of people in the chat that have, talked about this, and I think the untapped market for that is sort of this, dual sport adventure type rider, because it's really comforting. But then, like, if you want better front end traction when you're racing, there's no problem there. And it's one of these things. If it works, you'll start seeing a lot of people begin using. I know we have a few people in the chat, the chitter chatters, that have said they've been running them since they came out, and really noticeable in cobbly terrain, says John Shoamir. John Shoari. No, there's no R. I wish Logan was here to help me pronounce some of these names. Do listeners get a 20% discount? Says Chris Schnowit. I don't know. I didn't go there yet. So I'm going to go back on the question. There was a question that I missed earlier, and it was a good one, but I'm going to see if I can't scroll on this for some reason. My screen doesn't work very well. So I'm going to go to John Bailey's question. 2007 CR450X Recluse Radius X clutch issues ? Okay, what? I don't know. I've put them in 2007. I've had them in older Honda CR450Xs. I had it. That was one of the original bikes that we tested some of the Radius X's in. And I left it in the bike for a long time until we started using the one that I had as a rental bike, and we wanted to have a real clutch in it for the schools. So I didn't have any issues with them. John, maybe you can explain what's going on. Oh, and Chris says that discounts on the Countershox. Oh, well, I'll give you a discount on the show. You can have it for 20% less than you're paying for it right now. Hopefully that helps out. By the way, no 20% discounts for my sponsors, on them paying me, because I need it all. Yamaha, Blue Crew. I'm a Tenere rider, Tenere T7. I've been doing some shock testing on the Tenere for Tour Tech on some pretty new stuff. Been trying to smooth out my throttle, and I have a question later about that. But if you're looking for the best all-around adventure bike, in my personal opinion, Yamaha Tenere T7 is your go-to for that. Also, tonight we will not be doing Takamoto's Rooster Endo, because I didn't have time to organize it, and we only have a few submissions, and that means that the pot is getting bigger, so it's going to be like a huge bonus round of Rooster Endo when we finally get to that. Takamoto.co if you're looking for parts for your bike, especially if you're on a KTM, Husky, Gas, even the Honda CR450 L and X, they have a lot of stuff for that. Check them out at takamoto.co, and if you have questions, they are really good about getting back to you. So if I can't answer your question, and if it's really specific to one of those, actually any bike that they know about, they know the answer. They're dealing with this on every once in a while. And Gregory Edinger says, are you still on board with Shoari? Yes, I am, Gregory. They've been a long-time sponsor of my off-road riding school. By the way, that's www.jimmylewisoffroad.com. And If you want to take a class, email me. It's easy. My name at my website, which is www.jimmylewisoffroad.com. Go there. Our schedule is announced. Our October class is starting to fill out. If you think that you will not learn something at my class, I will make you a bet. I will give you a money back guarantee, and all you have to do is email me. I'll explain how that works, and you can come and be a better rider. It will be the best $1,250 or $1,500 that you spend on yourself. It's almost like going to counseling, but you'll become a better motorcycle rider. And everybody goes, well, why does it cost so much? It's like, you should see my insurance bill. I'm basically giving this class away. Actually, I worked for a long time before I make any money because of insurance. Thank you very much. Climb. I packed up a bunch of bitchin' climb gear today to go ride the Rebel Rally because I know we're going to be in freezing cold temperatures when we start, and then we're going to be down in super hot temperatures when we end. And Climb has the gear that has the versatility to make me comfortable all the time. Okay, Ryan, I'm going to get your question about JIS versus US Phillips screws and which brands they are on besides Yamaha. JIS is slightly different profile and the proper type for carb screws and master cylinder screws. So this is something for maybe someone that's more familiar with the tool industry than myself. I will tell you that I have a lot of tools, and I know that some tools don't fit in certain. If I put a Phillips screwdriver in there and it's that narrow angled pointy one and it doesn't grab the sides, I don't try to spin it. Or if you put the fat one in there and it doesn't go in, I don't try to spin it. I know I have both of these different types of screwdrivers someplace in my toolbox. It's just the same as, SAE versus metric or Phillips versus torque versus whatever. There's so many different kind of things and specialty stuff out there. I'm not aware of which manufacturers use and which kind of screws, but just try to use the right tool. So, yeah, there are. So I've always had Craftsman tools. I had them when I was younger, and then now they're harder to get, and I think they're frankly junky now. Like a lot of stuff that used to be pretty durable, but there's some, and yeah, I use some Harbor Freight stuff, and I don't have much Snap-on, but I've found Snap-on at swap meets, different things. So yeah, a bunch of different tools, and just try to use the right tool. Let's see. Steven Stanton says, how do you submit a pic for Rooster Endo? You send us an email, and you tell us a little bit about your bike. So it's about how much enjoyment we get out of profiling your bike here. We like a good photo. We like some good information. You don't have to give us we used to call it Roost Endo for sale because people are trying to sell their bikes and getting free advertising for it. So, so still on board with Ferrari. You can submit to email through Dirt Bike Test for Rooster Endo. We answered the Phillips head screw, and Eduardo Rojas says, Suzuki DR650 for a dual sport bike. What do you think 50/50? Thanks. I honestly think if you're looking for a true 50/50 dual sport 650, that is probably the best one. And the only thing it needs is a bigger gas tank. It gets pretty good fuel efficiency, but we used to put these at Sherby's 5.5 gallon tanks on those things and take them down to Baja, and not racing, not trying to go fast, just trying to really enjoy the ride. You can't get a better performance for cost, for durability, that's a great bike. The KLR 650 kind of comes with some extra stuff, but the performance isn't quite there. You go to the Honda 650L, you get kind of a funky package. It's not as comfortable. Suzuki's low. It's just very comfortable, easy bike. I think it's better than the much more expensive BMW and KTM's in that kind of zone. We did a dual sport shootout at Cycle World magazine back in, I want to say 90 something or other. And that bike hasn't changed. It won. So that's all I know. Dave Donnelly says, since Skylar and Ricky are on HRC, any chance they're coming on the podcast soon? Well, I don't know about Skylar because I haven't talked to him, but Ricky will. What I do is when I work with Ricky with navigation stuff, I always kind of schedule it to start on a Wednesday morning, or we ride Tuesday and I make him stay here on Tuesday night, and he just gets suckered into it. And then he usually tries to sell a bike or two on Roost End or for sale. So we'll see. There's some plans to do some training, but they're actually over in Morocco right now, getting ready for a rally, and they do big trainings as a team and stuff now. So we only work on when there's some specific stuff that they need to work on. So don't know. About ready to call Bulletproof Designs because I need some radiator guards for my Yamaha WR450. So if you need radiator guards or chain guide protectors, or different billet piece like their new billet throttle, check out Bulletproof Designs for all of your protection needs. They sell a lot of other stuff too. So if they're getting some radiator guards like I'm going to be, you can click around and find some other things on their website as well. So check that out. I'm going to hit the questions that we have from the show. And Trevor just released a new 450 video comparison. So they did they took all of our off-road 450s. We did a stock 450 comparison, and now he's gone and done some slight modifications, modified them for Grand Prix racing, and put the video up there where he wrote the whole script, and he read it. He read the whole script from beginning to end. So the thing he's done for you is you don't have to read the test that's up on Dirt Bike Test. You can just watch the video and Trevor reads it for you. So if you need a good bedtime story and you like motorcycles, you want to have good dreams about your next 450 off-road bike, Trevor will read you the 450 comparison bedtime story. But it's been up on the internet for a little while, and we have some questions. Go P Hop says, it would have been interesting to see how the old KTM chassis in the mix. Well, KTM probably doesn't think the old KTM chassis is as good as the new KTM chassis. So, and we're comparing apples to apples, which are all brand new bikes. And there are definitely some people that for some reason think that the old chassis is better than the new chassis. I can't tell you because I haven't ridden it. So, and KTM actually didn't even give us a bike for that comparison. We used the one of our vet riders' bikes as the bike in that. And when we did the stock ones, we actually had a gas that was also another one of our riders. KTM has been they're selling, well, they were up until now. It's not anymore. They were selling everything they produced, everything. And so at that point, and there's another question I got later. It says, Jimmy, how come you haven't ridden the Stark Varg? Well, right now, Stark Varg is selling everything that they can produce. So they are starting to go around and do the media tours and stuff. But I think that when companies are in this position, there's no reason to go look for press, good or bad. And I'm not at the front of the list, and Dirt Bike Test is not at the front of anybody's list because we tell it like it is. And if there's anything that, most of the guys now, it's just all flowers and farts with the candy sprinkles in them and their rainbows, and that's all you're going to get. And not that it's not hard hitting, but most of these guys need to learn actually how to test something, because they say, oh, this is great and this is good and this is great and it's better and da-da-da. And then they'll say, oh, and the seat's harder and the foot peg's a little something. And they're never going to, they don't even know how to place it because they just don't have the experience to do it. So why didn't we put the old KTM chassis in the mix? Well, if I were Trevor, since he has some experience on that, maybe he could comment on the old one versus the new one. Or maybe if you looked at, I don't think we did an initial riding impression of that bike because we just brought it into the comparison. But in that, we would talk about the changes from the old one to the new. And from that, you can infer. And sometimes when we do comparisons, we say, hey, some people preferred this older design, or people that are used to the old one, this is a big change. They've gone in a different direction. This is the kind of the direction that we're going with that kind of stuff. But Yeah, and we don't have access to a lot of these bikes, especially old ones. And especially when old ones are old and they're not new, you're not testing a new one. It's a different bike. Bikes wear a little bit and they act differently, and so you're not comparing apples to apples. And Gregory Edinger said, have you ever done a helmet light comparison or a headlight comparison? Well, we were supposed to work on some of that stuff over the summer, and somebody got busy. And so I don't know what happened with that. We did that back at Dirt Rider, but man, has stuff changed since then. There's so much good stuff out there, and there's a lot of junk out there too. And some of the low price stuff is actually pretty good, but you just don't know what you're going to get. I've heard from some friends, especially since they're doing like things like the 24-hour, that they buy two of the same things and they're not the same thing. So checking that. And Road to Race 3R says, top 10 uses for silicone spray. He's asking this in the chat. I like to use it on the zippers, on my bags and backpacks and different things like that that get sticky from dust and silt and dirt. It's really helpful there. Another thing, sometimes I will spray it underneath my fenders if I'm going to go ride in muddy condition. It helps the mud fall off, and sometimes the mud sticks to it, and then it dries up, and you just hit your fender, and it all falls off. That and silicone spray, and sometimes PAM, like a non-stick pan. Cooking oil will do the same things, but silicone spray does that stuff. So those are two that I can think right off the top of my head. I'm going to move down to one more thing on the 450 comparison. Andrew Disco says, great idea. Would love to see the same thing for the 250Fs. Not many areas are 450 friendly these days outside of SoCal. And a PDS chassis feels really stiff to me now. I think they went to a steeper angle with the shorter shock. We've got a 300 that we're going to be testing, so I'll be able to tell you how that feels when I get it. And because one of the things they said about the KTM is they think that the new XCW might be better than the XC for the feel, especially for the vet riders that they were trying to get out of that. So good question, Andrew. Yeah, we'd love to do a 251 too, but ask Trevor how much work it is. Because everybody thinks it's just like we get all these bikes and we just go ride them and then sit around and talk about them. I didn't even get a chance to ride them. So I just had to read Trevor's script, and then I edited it right after he recorded it. So none of the edits went in. So if he says something funny or it's not described as good as it is in the written version, blame me. So on to the next one. Side Wide 1999 says, absolutely awesome video. I think most riders make some mods to their bikes, and some small ones can make a big difference. It's great to see how these bikes compare, as most people own them. So Side Wide, I have never been a big fan of doing modified comparisons because modifications are personal. And this is where you can, and I really tried to steer Trevor in this direction, and he did a good job with it. Is in the stock comparison, there were complaints, and so you focused on the complaints to make the modifications to kind of make that stuff go away, i.e. the bigger gas tanks on the bikes that we complained about, the fuel tank size. The suspension, they tweaked on all of the different suspensions based on the kind of the collective rider inputs, but I promise you that the settings that they came up with were not specific to some of the riders, and that may have adversely affected the bikes. I'm pretty sure they were specific to Trevor and Todd. So, and everybody has you have your own type of, what you want, kind of a feel you want, and that's why you prefer a certain bike. And they go into pretty good detail on that in the comparison. So, but when we start talking about, like, they put recluse clutches on some of them, but not in others. And I actually thought they should have put recluses on different ones. If you said which one would you put the recluse on, I would have put it on a different one. I probably would have put it on whichever one I favored the most because I like them. And So those kind of things. Same thing with steering dampers. Flex bars. All the stuff I put on my bike, I'd want to put it on every single one of those bikes because I know it works, and that's what I did on my WR. And I wish I had the video done, but went on another job description. On Tech Talk Taco Tuesday at FJE8687 says, "Rip a KLR unlike any mortal dirt bike man." Okay. I have a video of me ripping a KLR. So we got a KLR last year, and I did a quick test of it. I call it quick because it was only 500-600 miles. It wasn't the thousands that we like to put on stuff like that. So yeah, I did that. Thank you. Black Dog ADV says, "I took Jimmy's dirt bike class and he made me work hard to complete it. Great review." And he was talking about the Cove when he wrote that. And I'm not sure why those two things go, but Black Dog ADV, thank you for commenting on the video. And I'm sorry I made you work so hard. Actually, I'll tell you something about my school. I need to do a whole podcast on Better Rider about this because some other school, I won't even mention which one it was, they talk about their Dakar heritage and the history of Dakar and how and all this stuff, and I'm like thinking, you guys you don't even have an instructor. Your instructor might have gone and watched Dakar. I know a school where a guy actually finished on the podium at Dakar. So he did advertising for me. So for that, I say thank you. So if you want to learn from a washed-up ex-Dakar racer, come to Jimmy Lewis Off-Road. We have openings in October. Best money you could ever spend on modifying your dirt bike is to put a better rider on top of it. So just so you know, tell a friend. It's your friend. Here's what you need. You don't need to take the school because I know you guys are really good riders. And you don't really want to do. Like, it'd be weird to come and hang out with me for 2 days and I don't clap when you fall over and say you tried real hard. I go, dude, what happened? Like, let's not do that. I want you to be safe, efficient, faster, relaxed. I want you to be able to ride your motors. All this crap I talk about on this show, like how I feel stuff on a motorcycle. If you're not riding properly, you're not going to feel any of this stuff. So, Dave Donnelly in the chat says, "Honda is racing their new electric MX bike in the all-Japanese nationals. Trey Kennard is riding. Stark has just gone one step back." We won't know. We don't know. I wonder. So the interesting thing is where these bikes are going to be allowed and what class they're going to be allowed to ride in, because it's not like a displacement. There's a certain amount of power, and I'm sure that Honda has some pull in the Japanese nationals to be able to race whatever their electric bike is, and I don't think they would do it if they didn't think it was competitive. And it'll be interesting. It's really going to be interesting to see where this stuff goes. I'm not poo-pooing electric bikes. They are what they are. It's different. Things are going to change because of this, and some's going to be for the better, and some's going to be for the worse. And until I actually ride bikes, I can't comment on how they work. It'll be interesting to see what that does. I need to fix that box up in the corner because in the video, this box up here, I wonder if I can do this on the show live. So if you're watching this, I'm actually manipulating something here. I got a cursor in my hand. The other thing I did that was really bad is I didn't start recording this show until halfway through that first stupid interview. My fault, not stupid interview. Not... Yeah, too many buttons to push here. So I know last week I tried to figure out how to make it. No, that's that scroll right there. That's the socials. By the way, if you want to check us out on our social media things. Like, I think it's Instagram and then Facebook and then YouTube. So those are all different places that you can check out dirtbiketest.com. Image. Is this the image? No, that's that. And then there's audio output, which I don't think I want to touch that. And there's browser. There it is, browser. So there, I've turned it off and I turn it on. Now I got to get it and bring it back in here. Let's see if this helps. Oh boy. Yeah, now it's really small. How are you ever going to see that? We need to make this show better somehow or another. Let's see here. Because it's cut off, and if you want to read what they say, is it better to put it like that? You comment and tell me. You guys are in charge of this show a little bit. So I could see, I could put it over here, and I could block my TV screen, and then my sponsors don't get their plugs. So it'd be better if it were right here, I think. This way, you can see what people are saying, and you don't have to look at me. So I'm just going to do the show like this. So right now is the time to comment, because everybody's going to see what you say. And everybody says that that's just fine. Thanks, Countershox. And if you want to know how to spell Countershox, that was Nathan, who was on the show earlier tonight. That's how you spell it. So anyway, actually right now, this way I can eat. Well, I can't eat and talk at the same time. I could eat my dinner. And you can pinch to zoom. There's a lot of stuff going on that's really above my pay grade, but this is how it works. So at this time, I've decided that we're going to do a quick commercial break, and I'm going to come back and finish all of the questions I have on the sheets and get to your questions.
The defending champion, the all-new Yamaha YZ450F.
What's up, Moto Buddies? Mike here from Taco Moto Co. What is the Taco Touch? It's the best service in the industry. Virtually 24/7 tech support via email or text, and it's like having a dirt bike doctor on call every day of the year, helping you fix your bike or recommend parts or setups for you. If you've ever received an order from us, you know that the Taco Touch extends to our fulfillment, and our orders come with the coolest stickers that you've ever had, buying parts from anybody before, and a handful of root beer barrel candies. All of our Taco Moto Co. branded components come with a no questions asked lifetime warranty, and we'll even extend out the warranty of other manufacturers, OEM, and aftermarket parts where we can, sometimes for life. We test and tune endlessly and exhaustively and obsessively. We're trying to destroy everything that we can before you get your hands on it, to look for weaknesses and to improve it, or to make recommendations to the manufacturer. And if it's something that doesn't meet grade, then we don't offer it on the store. Everything that we carry is something that we have personally used, tested, and ridden, and raced, and knows meets the high Taco Touch demanding standard. Go out and get some adventure.
And we are back. And the chat says I look great like this. So I'll leave it like this for a little while. That way I can kind of finish eating here. Well, Doesn't make for good audio, though. This is a podcast. It's a pod show. Just do it on my free time here. I'll put it back up here somehow or another. I'll put it right there. I know I can fix this. Actually, yeah, it's not for you guys to worry about. Get back to the thing. So somebody says, how do I protect my pinch bolts on the fork axle? What do I use? Bulletproof Designs. Both Bulletproof Designs, and then there's this other plastic company that makes one, but they don't sponsor the show, so I'm not really going to talk about them. I would, but they should really, because I wouldn't just say that I wouldn't. I'd tell you that why their stuff is really good. But the good thing about the Bulletproof Design ones is I use the ones that do not have the big giant disc protector on it. And if you're a fan of the show, you go back about 20 episodes, you can probably hear me rant about front disc protectors. And then yesterday I was riding a bike that had a bent front disc, so just stop it right there. But Bulletproof Design has some really nice ones that protect the fork lug, and I'm not worried about the pinch bolts. I'm more worried about the bottom of the fork, because if you whack that right, it's really hard to get the bolt out of the bottom, the cartridge holding bolt, that big lug that comes out of there. It makes it pretty difficult. So that's the thing. That's good. I can read, and it's not blocking the TV. Good. Well, make sure that you don't type a too long of a question, because it runs off the edge of the page. You know how that happens, somehow or another. Okay, back to the thing. Mike KMET says, Jimmy's getting underserved by George. That last shot was a Canadian-like shot. Short, eh? Well, George tried to overserve me on the other show. It didn't work out that well because I talked so much I couldn't drink what he was pouring. And tonight I'm not drinking that. So just having a beer with dinner. And then Chris Schnowit 3060 says it's Monday night, because he's referring to when we uploaded the last show onto the YouTubes, because when I got done with the last show, I took off and went riding or something like that, and evidently the show doesn't load itself. So I'm sorry. You should talk to my production department. Hey, production department. Somebody wants to know, where are the Tech Talk Taco Tuesday t-shirts? They're right here. Right there. This is one. I'll show you the design if you want to look at it. Actually, I can show you the design even better probably if I go to, I think this is called a Logan shot. Logan camera? Oh, Logan camera's dead. So, yeah, we're working on it. As soon as I get my production department to handle the form to get them processed, and then I talk to the mailing department. We'll work on that. Riders Oregon 4474 says, I don't like ABS on a car. Too many years of driving on ice without it. Now, how that applies to whatever, I think he's talking about us talking about the Cove, because it has ABS on it, and that was one of the biggest complaints we had with it. We should have taken it off, so I believe that's what he's talking about. Lowbrow 7661 says, yo, how's that YZ125 in the background? He's talking about my Tenere video, I believe, and that one YZ125 is awesome. It's a Yamaha Blue Crew. It's a 2005, and I still rip that thing. And all I just do is keep putting pistons in it and running it. Actually, I put a brand new. I got a carb off of a 23 to put on it, and it really helped because my carb actually was wearing out. Asking me about how that happens. So that's an awesome bike. If you're looking for a killer 125, the new Yamaha YZ125. Available in vintage colors, kind of like this YZ250, but much different. That's the picture I like to hold up because Trevor and his boys. He has some guys that think they're rad photo models, and they're not that rad. So got a lot of comments about the helmet. Everybody wanted to know, how much money did I get paid to wear Biaffi helmets? A lot. The old Biaffi rep reminded me that, and somebody said that the spike on the top of the 6-day helmet was well, it was Spike that actually said that. He said bad Photoshop work. So, what's next? M. Munter 10. This is one of the guys from Australia. Says the other dude can barely get a word out. And I think he's talking about the Cove video also. And the other dude didn't have anything to say. So I just kept talking. And when I tried to let him talk, yeah, well, it's a long story. Watch the video. Some people aren't made to be in front of the camera, like me. I can talk, but I'm not made to be in front of the camera. On a CRF 250F video, oh, it's some user something name, you know, auto-generated name. It says, they make anything to make them faster. Seems just such a woman's trail bike. So, I commented back to this guy and I said, yeah, they make a throttle. It's on the right hand and you turn it farther. I actually have in my possession 2 of those CRF 250Fs, our test bike and one that I bought. And they go plenty fast. We ride them around on our flat track. They work just fine. So enjoy them while you can. And then when you find the end of the throttle a lot and you want to go faster, get another bike. Don't modify those bikes. Those bikes are fine the way they are. When you're working with play bikes, like unless you're working with like kid mini bikes, you're modifying it just to be cool. Do not modify a CRF 250F, the family one. Don't modify a TTR 230. Don't modify Kawasaki's KLR 250, 230, whatever. Don't modify them. Ride them and then get a better bike and then sell it and let somebody else go through the same process. You can buy a 10-year-old used motocross or used off-road bike and you are in way better shape because the performance is going to be incredible. You're going to pay probably what you could sell your current bike for. You're probably going to learn a little bit about fixing and modifying, and the difference between a high performance bike and a low performance bike is the amount of maintenance and the parts that it costs, but it's nothing near what the internet would have you believe. Most of those bikes will run forever as long as you keep the oil fresh and change the air filter when you need to, and don't sit it on the rev limiter. That's it. So hopefully that any suggestions about changing sprocket, says FT Ready. Yes, use DDC chain wheels. Good sponsor of the show. Delaney Drive Components. They make stainless steel, last forever sprockets. I know they have a warranty. I've never worn one out, and I have a lot of bikes and been using them forever. Yeah, so use DDC stuff. He actually sells he'll sell you a whole kit, like chain and sprocket. They're matched chains and sprockets and stuff. That's probably the best thing. That's the best suggestion I can give you off the top of my head. But I actually did a tech tip the other day that I need to publish, but it's like one of those things I went riding instead. When you're changing the chain out, when you take your chain apart, the one you're taking off, when you have your new chain, so you don't get your fingers all greasy, just take the old chain where it's broken, pop the master link in there, connect them together, and pull on the old chain and pull it through, and you get it all the way through the thing, and that way you don't have to wheedle it through the countershaft sprocket and around the guards and everything like that. It goes right through the chain guide. You just zip on and off. That was a trick that I had practiced. I never had to do it because I never had to change a chain during like a 6 days in ISD and stuff, but if I had to, that's how I was going to do it. So just save a little bit of time and get your fingers less greasy. So Ron Wielder says, where can you get one of those badass TTT t-shirts? You will be able to get it here in an undisclosed amount of time. And if you ask Mark Daniels, who's a longtime favorite guest, not a guest, a friend of the show. He's been on before. He came to the one that we did at Rottweiler Performance. He will tell you that you may wait a while, but you will get your shirt. So just don't spend that 20 or $25 or whatever. Don't spend it on some other goofy shirt from some other ding dong podcast or something like that. They're coming. Then you can wear it out to all your favorite events. So I'm wearing a Bulletproof Designs t-shirt. By the way, good sponsor of the show. I need to get some stuff from Bulletproof Designs. I actually tried to call Nate today. I want to see if he wanted to come on the show as well. So Bulletproof Designs, protection stuff. Christmas is coming. He needs at least a dozen. Oh, Ron, I'm on it. Hey, when I get done with this event's been literally taking up way more of my time than I ever imagined, because we had a whole course, and then we had these crazy these floods, that hurricane that came through, and then we had thunder showers the week after, and I kid you not, it wiped out the desert. There's places where there used to be roads that you would never know that there was ever a road ever, and this includes a couple of major highways. And so we had to do a year's worth of 9 months worth of work in 2 or 3 weeks, and that's what we've been trying to do. So, anyways, Nate isn't with Bulletproof Designs anymore. Oh, didn't know that. Okay. I knew he was out riding in Idaho last time I called there. So maybe that means he's not there. I'll have to check in. Morgan, it's been a while. Good to see you. You are going to be in Mexico for the 1,000. No, I will not be in Mexico for the 1,000. Maybe the Nora Mexican 1,000, but evidently there's a new boss at Nora, one Robbie Gordon, and I don't know that I haven't been told whether I get to come back and do it or not. I need to ask, because sometimes people just expect you're going to show up, but I need to start working on that thing too. So it's like a bull that won't move. What's that? Gregory? Oh, have you ever had an animal issue during a race? I've had a couple close calls, animal issues, but never. I had pre-running. I've had. In the 1,000. No, you know what? One year I hit a cow and it shit on me during. I thought I hit a rock, but the rocks don't shit. So, yeah. Okay. Back to the questions on the sheet. I'm going to get through these tonight. I gotta go driving. So, anyways, we're back to HH6H34 whatever. Electric for all my pumps. Why run it off the motor? Cars have been doing this for years for efficiency. So we have a video. I think we talked about it in Tech Talk. Somebody made a short out of it where we talk about some of the Supercross teams and different teams running electric water pumps instead of water pumps off of the, driven through, whether it's the cam or through the clutch or however it is. And we just kind of broke it down. I mean, do you really need to? I mean, what are you trying to get out of your motorcycle? And if you're trying to get 10/10 out of your motorcycle at a Supercross, maybe that little bit of drag that would put on, I don't really know how much drag. It'd be interesting. So I'm sure somebody can tell you there's a reason why they do it. But I think they do it more to optimize the temperature than actually friction loss or whatever you would call it. So that's my take on it. Don't believe me. What do I know? I'm just a hack, washed up internet. I'm an influencer-ish person. Grasshopper, says Mark Dennis. You must develop patents to get your T-shirt. Oh, develop patience to get your T-shirt, as they say, mañana, not tomorrow. But it will get to you soon. Thanks, Mark. They do show up, though. They will show up. Eventually. It's not on my. I would like to have priorities. Like, I do have a priority. I'm going to go riding. Next, on the KX250F video. Oh, no. We have one. TJ Bark says the foot peg thing seems like a major oversight on KTM's part. And he's talking about the KTM 390. Man, I tell you what. If there's one part that manufacturers do overlook, and it's not just KTM, because even Yamaha on the Tenere 700, if there's something that I bitched about in the Tenere 700 straight away, was the foot pegs. And they do it because I don't know why they do it. I really don't. It's a way to save a few bucks. And on the adventure bikes, they put rubber things in them and they're slippery. Luckily, some of them you can take them out and then you have a sort of a normal foot peg, but they're always really small. But then it fits in a crate because the foot pegs are actually the widest part on a motorcycle. And then if they can actually install those at the factory, it's one less thing for the prep have to do, because bikes used to come without the foot pegs, and actually putting a foot peg on is more difficult than most assembly guys are capable of doing, in my experience. So, but I think it's just a price point thing, and the good thing is there's a really good aftermarket for this. So I replace a lot of the foot pegs. Bulletproof Designs makes some awesome foot pegs, by the way. Just saying. So yeah, it's on a lot of bikes, not just the KTM 390 is what he was talking about. KX250 FX, nubs with guns, 1538 says. If this is what you want, don't be and he does an R with a bunch of asterisks and a D, and buy a 250F in the first place. And so there's some misspellings in there, except for the R and D, and I don't know what that word is, but maybe it's a bad word. So I checked with Nubs with Guns, and he plays guitars, and he rides one of those. He rides the bike you buy at Tractor Supply with the Briggs and Stratton motor in it, the ones they use at the Gambler, the little. He rides one of those, and he's mad at us because I don't know what we talked about. We must have wanted more power or something. I don't know. Don't buy a 250. Maybe we wanted less. Maybe I don't know how he got in. I don't know how he found us, because we haven't done a test on that particular bike just yet. Steven Santon says, "What are your favorite grips?" That's an interesting question. On my bikes that I ride, like long distance, dual sport, rally, stuff, adventure bikes, I'm running the foam grips like I did on my rally bike. They're Pro Grip foam grips. Super, super awesome. Hard as hell to install, but really awesome. Check out my Tenere video. I talk about the grips in that video. I show you, and you can see where it was really hard to install. You can see where I messed up a little bit with the glue, but nobody gave me a hard time yet. I was waiting for someone to get, but they're on all my, the bikes I use for rally training. And if I'm going to do if I put a 5-gallon tank on a bike, it generally gets a foam grip. So I use those, but I do not like them for doing motocross or hard enduro and stuff. I like the ODI makes their clamp-on grips. I really like those. AME, which is a grip company, they're local here in Vegas. They have some really nice grips that are. They had some clamp-ons too. They had heated clamp-on grips that were really bitching. But grips are a personal preference, and it's just like anything. I have a small hand. Don't judge. I have a really small hand, so I like a really small diameter grip. I don't like a lot of waffles or any patterns that rub on my palm or on my I don't know what this part of your hand is. What do they call that part where your fingers start? Palm. Well, the palm's down here, but there's got to be something here where my calluses are from all the other stuff that I do. Yeah. Did really, Robert? The word was retarded? Don't be retarded and buy a 250F in the first. Well, maybe he's talking about knocking your ignition back to get less throttle response if he said retarded, because that's what I use retarded for. Thank you. I don't play good. I'm not good at that game, whatever. Name this word. Mark Daniels, T-shirts are not the priority in life. Tequila. Well, yes, that is. I'm actually trying to decide whether to take. I'm gonna take to Rebel Rally, because everybody, all the staff, we always kind of take a little surprise something for when we have downtime to celebrate. I think I'm gonna take my whiskey I got in Mexico that was barreled in tequila barrels. So I have a whiskey that was made in Mexico, and it was made in tequila barrels, and it's actually really, really good. The name eludes me right now. It's over there. I can almost smell it. So that's what I'm going to bring. So ODIs are Mark's favorite grips. And when is the next T7 blog? It's It's coming. It's right behind my WR 250 test and my TTR 230 riding impression and my WR 450 modification. It's right there in line with those videos, but that requires that I sit down and stare at a screen, and I'm not very good at that, even though that's what I'm sort of doing right now, but I only do it for 2 hours and then I take off. I mean, it might even make 2 hours tonight. I'm getting a little fried. The Grip Company in Las Vegas, that's AME. A-M-E. A guy named Bob Rutten, who is a Baja racer. Super cool guy, worked there, was doing all their stuff. So AME Grips. They had some pretty cool stuff. Let's see. Next question. On the Tenere 700, speaking of that, says, Jimmy, I'm watching your show after it was live. I have some Tenere info to share in reference to the herky-jerky off-idle situation. And this is D.D. Kessler 14.14.1. It says, the first thing I did was put a 16-tooth sprocket on it as I thought the first gear was useless. I also did this to relax the motor at highway speeds. This helped with the herky-jerky situation, but it wasn't perfect. As time went on, I noticed the low-speed throttle roll-on was improving. Thinking about this and knowing the bike had a wideband O2 sensor, I theorized that it was correcting the AFR at off-idle settings. That was the 2,000-mile mark. Since then, I drive in the upper gears at low throttle settings, running the engine in the 2,000 to 4,000 RPM range. I now have over 11,000 miles on the bike and have forgotten that it had this initial glitch. Now it transitions off-idle smooth as butter. Other than adding the 16-tooth sprocket, my bike is stock. So that's interesting. I wonder if, what I'm trying to think is did you learn how to ride it so that wasn't problematic anymore, or did the bike like break in or age in a way that mellowed it out? So that would be an interesting thing to know. So I know, and I'm struggling still. So I put the G2 throttle tube on it. It's a more aggressive throttle, and in a lot of ways it helped, but in certain situations it made that bog worse. So we were talking about this on the last show that I'm gonna do some really detailed stuff so I can explain where it's at, because it seemed like it was off idle. And then I started doing it. If I didn't chop the throttle down to zero throttle position, it doesn't happen. So, and I noticed that it wasn't happening as much. Without even thinking about it, I probably quit returning the throttle all the way to zero position. So if I turned it down to 2% throttle, which is almost shut, and then came back on, it doesn't happen. But if I went back down to zero and then came back on, it did. So I don't know. I have to, before I can complain about something, but before I go try to get it fixed, I have to know exactly what it's doing. And I want to talk to the guy who mapped my ECU, and then, but I need to give him some specific information so he has something to work with. And then I can actually map my ECU. And so I will try some things because I know a couple tricks too, but I think it might be a little bit deeper. Like we talk about, there's probably a correction going on with the O2 sensor. And this is probably meeting like Euro 5 emission standards, which is ridiculously lean. And it's so hard to get that kind of throttle response. The basically it can't be dirty. That's the thing. And you can add fuel, but it's really easy to kind of go the other way. And it may come down to the cat, because this is something I'm starting to notice even on this twin cylinder bike, or even on other bikes that have cats. This is kind of a symptomatic thing of cats that when you have a catalytic converter on a motorcycle, it does something. And I don't know if it kind of gets dirty and it kind of plugs up, or just it's doing something different, affects I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I just ride dirt bikes and twist throttles. So there we go. I'm going to go back to the question. Do you notice the unsprung weight difference between aluminum rear and something like Super Sprock's steel rear sprocket? No, not really. I mean, I take that back, because I know in the past when we've taken Yamaha WRs and they used to have a really heavy steel sprocket on it, and you went to an aluminum sprocket, it got better. and I haven't noticed this much lately. I run mostly stainless steel sprockets, which are kind of halfway between aluminum and the other ones. And a fly just fell into my beer. I think it got drunk and died. Now I hear him buzzing around in there. That guy just took half of my beer away from me, because I'm not going to drink a fly. Maybe I will. We'll see. We'll see how the show goes. It's getting to that point. Robert Lambert says, why does the 2022 450X have a bigger throttle body compared to the 450 RX? Because Honda thought that was the best setting for it. Bigger is not always better. And a good guy that was amazing at tuning motorcycles and knew a lot about it, Dave Miller, back in the day, was a big fan of smaller carburetors, especially on small bikes. And I think it came down to he knew where you were riding and he knew what throttle response meant. So I don't know. Maybe that Honda found that they were getting better performance. I mean, on a 450, you don't need power, you need drivability. And that's probably that. I don't know that they're different. I didn't know that they were different. So that's kind of news to me. But I don't really pay attention to the specs. I just ride them and report how they work. And Ron wants to know, what is your favorite sprocket combo on the 500 EXC? Ron, I am running 99% of the times I'm running 1450 using a DDC rear chain wheel. And usually the stock sprocket still starts wearing out, and then I get something from Nate over at DDC. But what's funny is just the other day, for my bike that I'm using for Rebel, which is mostly like, roads, I went up to a 15. I went 1550 because I wanted to just relax that motor. And it's kind of funny how much it really does change the character of that bike. And then, now when I'm cruising along in sixth gear, it's at a really low RPM. So that's, let's see. And then Mark says 1448 for Baja and 1547 for wide open Baja. Yeah, tight stuff 1450. Yeah, and most of the time I'm happy with 1450. I don't really ever go up to the bigger ones like that 15, because like in reality, if you're talking about acceleration and stuff, it just spreads the gaps out a little bit much on that particular bike. For the tight stuff, you have to kind of wait to shift, where ordinarily you could kind of make the shift early and the bike will pull it. This one you kind of have to run it a little bit high on the RPMs to pull the next gear, in my opinion. So yeah, 1450. I run 1452 a lot of times as well, but that kind of speaks to the type of riding that I'm doing, where it's a lot of first gear stuff and I just want to not worry about it. Back to the questions. TWD Stroke says, here's a question maybe for the next show. What are some tips for us younger guys to make sure we keep riding when we are well into the Silver Fox years? Don't crash and get hurt is number one. Keep it fun. I raced for a living and I managed to keep it fun. The only reason I raced, I wanted to race, and when I got good at racing, the only reason I raced is to get free motorcycles, to be able to keep doing it. The racing wasn't nearly as fun as just riding was for me. Racing was work. It was a job, and that's why I got paid for it. But just keep it fun. Don't be afraid to experiment with different genres of racing. Just because you're doing motocross doesn't mean you can't go for a trail ride. Doesn't mean that an adventure bike isn't in your future. Doesn't mean that you might like trying something like hard enduro or riding mini bikes or doing flat track or road bikes, even if you want. Like crazy. You can do, like, motorcycles are pretty fun. I had a lot of fun. And D. Kessler responded, because he's 71. He says he feels qualified to answer. If you're a competitive rider in your younger years, you have to be willing to accept that you're not going to be as fast as you get older. Man, that's a great one. But I'll tell you right now, man, you have no idea how fast I think I am. But it's true. If you can't accept this and push, you will end up hurting yourself and then most likely want to quit. Again, back to don't quit. After that, it's just keeping yourself in shape and ride frequently to keep your skills honed. This coming from a guy who raced competitively in his 50s and learned the hard way that you just aren't as fast as you used to be. Now I ride recreationally almost daily, along with mountain biking and hiking with his dog. That's awesome. That's, I want to be riding when I'm 71. I have not found anything that gives me the same joy and satisfaction that dirt bikes do. So I agree with everything he said, and I still, to this day, some of my older buddies, and some of them unfortunately aren't riding anymore. They're born on date. They want to, but it's funny to see how much they miss it. But the same thing, like, man, if I wouldn't have got hurt so much when I was younger, these come through. But anyways, ride with better riders. Challenge yourself. Don't take chances, but yeah, challenge yourself. I know what you can do. You come take my school. If you take it at a younger age, you're going to learn how to ride more efficiently, have more fun, be more higher skilled, and then the riding becomes fun. This is one thing that, for me, like when I go riding, because I do get to do other sports with guys that are really good at other things. Let's say skiing or snowboarding. I get to ride with guys that are awesome at that stuff, and I want to do what they're doing. And I realize that I haven't been practicing this my whole life. I just do it recreationally, and yeah, I want to do what they're doing. So when I'm riding, and I realize how much effort I put in at practice, I really cherish the time I get to do it and how easy some of it is for me. That's really difficult for other people. But you look back and it's like, yeah, you put work into this. That's why it's easier. That's why you know some of the stuff that you know. That's why you can do some of the things that you do. Like you probably, everybody here does something that they're very good at, and they've probably been doing it for a long time, and they don't even think about it. And unfortunately for a lot of people, that's what they do for work. I'm lucky because this is what I get to do for work. I still really enjoy it, and I challenge myself, but now the limit is very clear. I know where the limit is, so I kind of keep that in mind. Gregory says, I'm 65 now, and I saw the guy was 85 still riding. I decided the only way to keep riding at that age is to pace better, not race better. Yeah, I don't race much. And even when I do, I try not to really race, because that was the one thing that I did learn, especially with my injuries, my wrists and stuff like that, is that, like, I don't know how to turn that off to a certain extent. And you just forget what you're doing. You just go into that, like, attack, kill, crush, destroy mode. And that's not good. So I try to take it easy when I race, even though and as I'm getting older, something I've learned is the more relaxed I am when I'm racing, the smoother I am, the faster I go. And this is what I was practicing back in the day, was how to go faster with keeping the heart rate down and the energy level low, because then you could always go faster if you needed to, but and then kind of know where the limit is. So anyways, I think we've wrapped up our all of our questions from what I can tell here. Yes, we have. I'd like to thank our sponsors again. These sponsors of this show, they're throwing us a little dough and supporting us so that you can get some of this information. My name is Jimmy Lewis. I'm a washed up ex-motorcycle racer, telling you that you should ride till you get old, twist the throttle farther when you need more power, and maybe get a Countershox on your bike, because it'll give you more traction on the front wheel if that's what you're looking for. So again, thanks to Nathan Looney for coming on, talking about the Countershox. Thanks for everybody that's joining into the chat. Thanks for all the comments. Tell a friend. All you guys in Australia with your wonky YouTube channels that are commenting on us, like, I'm going to come down there. No, you're safe. I'm not coming down there. I'm just going to flush more stuff down the toilet at you. So with that, everybody, we will see you out. Oh, hey, next week, no show. Unless George wants to Instagram it live on the tubes, the use or whatever heck goes on. Just follow me everywhere. Sign up for my school and have a great ride. See you out in the trail. Cheers.
If you liked what you saw in this video, come check us out over at dirtbiketest.com on the webs. We have bike tests, product tests, a lot of fresh dirt, and you can even support us by clicking through our links. Hopefully, we'll see you out in the trail.